welcome back to my channel. I'm the Inventing Canon. I always get asked so many questions like, Rachel, like, give me bareback tips, tell me how you ride bareback, yada yada yada. So it's one of the most common questions I get asked. So I thought I'd do a little updated video on my tips and tricks on riding better bareback. Before I talk about bareback riding, get all into that, just want to get some content. So I was very lucky in the fact that when I grew up, we were always taught to ride bareback. So I've been riding all the time since I was younger bareback. It contributes a lot because it's literally at the end of the day, it's just practice and feeling comfortable. So always feel free to start today and you'll always get better as you go along. It didn't help either. I was also really tiny and I was just too lazy to carry the saddle, so I just rode bareback. And then on top of that, Rusty just prefers being ride bareback, so I'm literally forced to ride bareback all the time. So before I go into my tips, there's a couple of things I want to break down. So I think that one of the most important things with bareback riding is there's two fundamentals. There is your ability of your core strength to keep you upright on top of the horse. Then there's your ability with your hips, which is where your balance and your flexibility come from. If you can get them two strengthened, your bareback riding will be so much better. Okay, so let's dive right into it. So tip number one, concepts taken from mounted games. So mounted games is probably one of the reasons why I am just so good at bareback riding. One of the most common things in mounted games is that though you're riding in a saddle and bridle, you're often galloping with no reins and no stirrups and leading halfway out the saddle with a flat tack gallop, because that is what you do. And the concepts you take from that is the ability to to be able to ride in the saddle with uses of your hands. So if you can practice that with literally at the walk, trot, canter, and build your way up and be able to ride almost with no reins. And I'm not saying go out and straight away, just let go of the reins and try to ride off, because if your horse takes off, you will be in trouble. So start off slow, even if you get someone to lead your horse for you or you're on the lunge, but working towards being able to not use your hands while you're riding in the saddle is your first steps to becoming a better bareback rider. And then the next step to take after that is the ability to ride with your feet out of the stirrups. The more you do that, the more comfortable you can feel, and you feel a lot more confident having the saddle underneath you. But again, make sure you do it in a safe environment and you don't just suddenly take off and fall off, because we don't want to do that. I really suggest you guys go and watch some mounted games rider, because you will see honestly what I mean with regarding to this seat. You don't have to go out and do mounted games, but just look at what they're doing and take the fundamentals and practice that. The next part I want to talk about is your core strength. Your core strength is very important. And what you need to realize is that your core strength isn't up here. Your core strength is down at your belly button. That is where your core strength is, and that is where your center of gravity should be. So probably the most common things is obviously just general gym work. But if you're someone that has a really weak core and also your back core is just important, just go look up some general exercises and give it a go with getting fitter and stronger, and you'll probably find when you improve your core strength, your bareback rider will get better. Tip number 3 is the ability to be flexible in your hips. I feel like this is the most important concept, because you need to be loose in the hips to be able to flow with the horse. If you're stiff in the hips, it's very hard to be balanced on top of the horse, because in reality, there is nothing holding you there. So the way I kind of help myself have loose hips is that I liked the idea of not pointing my toes up. Your toes shouldn't actually be rigid. They should be loose and hanging. If you see a lot of my videos, my toes are actually hanging down because my legs are that loose. I'm literally, when I'm cantering, I'm not gripping onto the horse. I'm literally just sitting there on the horse with my flexibility of my hips and my core strength keeping me there. And probably a way you can probably improve your hip flexibility is by yoga and Pilates. They're really good. I found when I got back into riding and I had really stiff hips, I've always had really stiff hips, doing a lot of Pilates and a lot of yoga into lower body and opening up your hips and strengthening your hip joints will help you so much. And then obviously the next step to come to that is balance. So you're balancing literally on your hips. So that's back again to referring back to mounted games, with the ability to sit in your saddle without the stirrups. But what I think people need to realize is that when you're practicing riding in the saddle without stirrups, you don't want to be doing the whole general heels down, because what that does is it locks up your calf muscles and therefore locks up your hips. You need to be able to flow with the horse. Just try when you're in the saddle to allow your legs to hang lower, and what you're trying to do is you're trying to have a greater surface area against the long side of the horse, so in the saddle. And rather than trying to be rigid and putting your heels down, try to let yourself go, and let your legs to droop down and be relaxed. It's hard, but you need to be relaxed to have your balance in the saddle. So like I said, if you're someone that really struggles to ride bareback, it's really good to actually practice in the saddle first. So it's back to practicing with taking the stirrups, with riding without your stirrups, and also riding without your hands, but don't do them at the same time first, please, when you're learning, and always make sure you have someone there to help you if you're really struggling. And then I think one of the most important tips as well, is kind of relating with the balance and everything, is that you need to be fluid. So you need to be relaxed. Once again, when I am galloping in the saddle, I am not actually gripping onto the horse. The only time I ever grip onto the horse is when I suddenly feel like they lock up and they spook and I go, whoop. A really good quote from Sally Swift is that the amount of pressure you should have on the horse's side should be enough to hold heel against the side of the horse. So it's not actually that much pressure. For example, with being fluid with the horse, one thing I find is that when I ride in the saddle, I know my legs are loose and relaxed, even when I've got the stirrups on, because I will get pins and needles in my ankles. So if you ever get pins and needles or your legs get quite sore, there's a sign that you're not actually relaxed in the saddle and you are tensing yourself up too much. Therefore, you're not allowing yourself to be fluid and move with the horse. So when you're riding bareback, you want to try go with the horse as much as possible, because if you're rigid and everything, and the horse suddenly does like a little jolt to the stop or jump to the side, you will just go out the front door because you won't be going with them, you're going against them. But if you're fluid, you're more likely to absorb that movement and stay with them. It definitely takes a lot of work and a lot of trial of error to figure out what works best for your horse. So a lot of horses ride differently. Rusty is very, very comfortable and he's quite wide, so he is easier to ride bareback than Hamlet. So Hamlet, I really struggle to trot. So if you have a bouncy trot, you know what I mean. And you just have to realize that each horse you have to ride different. Especially if you have a bony horse. I get with riding bareback. But I also find if you're learning, riding with a bareback pad helps you a lot more because it's not as slippery. And definitely make sure you don't wear slippery pants when you're learning to ride bareback. But at the end of the day, work towards being less independent with using your hands with riding. So this is in the saddle first. Also work towards being able to let your legs hang loose and start up with a walk and build your way up. And at that stage, then try to work with it together. But remember what I said about always making sure you have someone there to help you. And then when you step into riding bareback, try to remember your center of gravity is down here, and that's where you need to have your strength holding you up. If you ride your hands quite high, it is very hard to have that center of gravity because you're more likely to topple forward and topple back, I find. So you need to be able to have it down here. Just remember to be fluid and relax in your hips. Do some yoga, do some Pilates if need be to loosen yourself up. And always remember, let your legs hang loose. So always remember, relax and fluidity. So thank you all for watching my videos. Those are my general tips to ride bareback better. It is very much a working process. Don't beat yourself over it if you if you find yourself just not being perfect. You will bounce all over the horse. You will find yourself doing you grab on to hang on. But end of the day, it is literally just practice. And make sure you build yourself up to being confident in the saddle and then moving it on to bareback. And always remember to start slow. So you don't need to rush into anything. You want to build your confidence and you want to build your strength. End of the day, I think you guys need to realize I ride bareback probably 80% of the time. So therefore, I'm going to have a lot more strength than the average person. And that's just the reality of it. But it doesn't mean you can't do it too.